y'all doing?
How you doing?
All right.
How you doing?
Break. I am. So.
Tom Swazi doesn't dress down. That's how they roll the mask.
Good afternoon. I'm Congressman Greg Meeks, and I've been joined by Congressman Tom Swazi and Congresswoman Alexandria Ortiz. And my city councilman, Rory Lansman, and Assemblywoman Grace Main, but she's so tied up right now with the DNC and things that are going on. She's not able to be with us today. But we're all very concerned about the threat to our democracy that's put forward by the person that occupies public housing right now at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is something that should not be just politics, not just something that affects Democrats. It affects Democrats, it affects Republicans, it affects independents, it affects individuals who should vote but don't vote. It affects seniors, it affects young people, it affects all nationalities. People who are dependent upon prescription drugs, people who are dependent upon receiving their unemployment checks, people who need their Social Security checks, people who need to file their taxes and their tax return checks. It's the mail, the United States Post Office, in the Constitution of the United States of America, which you talked about, nothing would stop it. Rain, snow, hail, nothing stops the mail. And here, in this year of 2020, we have a president of the United States who says himself and with the assistance of his political crony, that he's slowing down the process to see pictures across America where mailboxes are being removed and or physically blocked, so people cannot put mail in the box, and where he says boldly, without fact, without information, that by voting by mail, there will be fraud. And that the elections, that the only way that he could lose is if there's fraud. It sounds to me, I don't know if anybody has read the book called Fascism by our former Attorney General, but if you listen to his words, and listen to the words of the fascist dictators of the 30s, you will find huge similarities. And so we're here today to stand up for democracy, our democracy, here in the United States of America. To say that we are not going to stand idly by, as unfortunately too many did in the 30s, and allow someone to endanger our very democracy, our postal services, and our mail, to get individuals to make sure they have the confidence that they can vote by mail. And why are they voting by mail like never before? Because we care about their health. This pandemic, as we see raging around the country, people feeling afraid to come out to vote, to exercise their right to vote. So therefore, we're making sure that they have access access to the polls by affidavit ballot. And this president is trying to prevent it. And so, the United States House of Representatives, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, is calling us back to Washington, D.C., where we will vote on Saturday to make sure that we are funding the Postal Service. And then we will challenge and ask our Republican colleagues from the U.S. Senate to join us. Put country over politics. Protect our democracy. Push back on the executive branch of government. This is a government where there's supposed to be checks and balances. And the checks of the executive comes from the legislative branch. We have a constitutional responsibility and have taken an oath of office, Democrats and Republicans, to protect it. We're going to do our part on Saturday. And we want the Senate then to do their part thereafter to say to every American, no matter what part of this country you come from, that we're going to make sure that the motto of the post office, that the mail will happen no matter what, is taking place. With that, I'm pleased to yield to my friend and gentleman from Nassau County and Queens, the Honorable Tom Swazi.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Congressman Meeks. I'm happy to join with you today, and Councilman and Congresswoman. Congressman Meeks, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez will be the first to tell you I'm pretty moderate. I try to work across party lines. I'm not subject to hyperbole. I'm very worried. I'm very concerned about what's happening with our postal system here in the United States of America right now. This is one of the most consequential elections in the history of the United States of America that will be the most reliant on the mail system ever in the history of this country. And it's too convenient that at the same time that this important election is happening that is so reliant upon the mails, we see overtime being canceled. We see shifts coming in later. We see machines being disassembled in different post offices all over the country. We see mailboxes being removed, as Congressman Meeks talked about. The new Postmaster General, who raised over $2.5 million for President Trump, who was his finance chairperson for the Republican National Convention, became the Postmaster General in June. It's a little too convenient that we see all of these actions being taken right now, just months before the election. So we have to all be concerned, because this will not only affect the election in very dramatic ways if the mails are delayed, especially if they're being delayed purposefully like this. Last year, over 1.3 billion prescriptions were filled via the mails by the U.S. Post Office. Almost 100% of the prescriptions by the Veterans Administration to veterans in the United States of America are filled through the mails. Senior citizens get their Social Security check through the mail. Small businesses deliver things through the mails. People do legal documents through the mails. Every single American has to be concerned when a fundamental institution that we all rely upon for everyday life is being subject to this type of purposeful dismantling and delay. So I'm very proud to join here with my colleagues today. I appreciate Congressman Meeks inviting me. I'm so happy to be here with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. We've been joined by Assemblyman Weprin and Roy Lantzman. We need to sound the alarm. We need to get the word out and make sure that Americans realize this has to break through all the noise. You know, we hear so much noise, so many things in the news. This is a fundamental break in our system of democracy, and we need you to help us to get the word out. So we're excited to be going back to Washington on Saturday because we love going down there so much. But this is such important work. And as Congressman Meeks said, we need the Republicans, not only in the House, but the Republicans in the Senate, to recognize that this is a fundamental part of our American system and it cannot be tampered with. Now,
So, the Speaker and Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney has called and will have a hearing before the Government Reform and Oversight Committee. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez serves on that committee. So we're happy to have her with us today. When that postmaster comes there, she will be there to ask the hard questions. And we are so appreciative of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being here.
Thank you so much, Congressman Meeks, and thank you for convening us, all of us here today, because this issue is bigger than any one of us. The Postal Service is not only how we send a ballot, it is how we get our medicine, it is how we send rent checks, it's where people are getting their tax refunds. It is a core service of any civilized society. And an attack on our Postal Service and an attempt to dismantle our Postal Service out of a selfish desire to sabotage our democracy and maintain a grip on power is an attack on all of us. Now is the moment for us to come together, not as Republican, not as Democrat, but as people who are concerned for the welfare of American democracy. Today, and as Congressman Meeks mentioned, we are going to start preparing to head back to Washington, D.C. this Saturday so that we can support Congresswoman Maloney's bill to make sure that we can support and maintain the United States Postal Service. Next Monday, the Postmaster General has agreed to testify in front of the Oversight Committee, which Congresswoman Maloney is also the chairwoman of, and it is utmost important that we get to the bottom of what is happening. Para nuestros vecinos aquí en Nueva York es bastante importante que reconocimos la importancia del servicio postal aquí en los Estados Unidos. Esa es la forma en que nosotros podemos votar, es la forma y la manera en que nosotros podemos recibir recetas de medicina, es la forma en que podemos pagar la renta. Y si no tenemos este servicio esencial, y el ataque en nuestro servicio postal es un ataque de nuestra democracia aquí en los Estados Unidos. Tenemos que empujar y tenemos que luchar para nuestra democracia, porque no es importante si eres demócrata o republicano, tenemos que luchar y proteger nuestro servicio postal. Gracias. And thank you, Congressman.
So we're here, we're standing in front of the Jamaica branch saying don't remove the mail sorters, don't reduce the overtime pay.
Change from the top. Change from the top.
You're right. Let's make sure that the motto of the Postal Service, think about it. It used to be when it was by stagecoach and horseback. And they made sure through all kinds of weather, through all kinds of difficulty, that mail was delivered, because it is so precious for folks to receive it. It can be life-saving. With that, I have two members, one from the Assembly and one from the City Council, because it has a direct impact on all of us, especially here in the city of New York. Now, we know that sometimes you think things are different from localities, some urban, as it is in New York, some rural, as it in other places. The one thing that we all have in common, the one thing that every American has in common, no matter where you're from, is the United States Postal Service. So now we'll just call up Councilman Rory Lanceman for a few words.
Thank you, Congressman. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 24th Council District. Everything that we are talking about in terms of the harm and the damage that President Trump is doing to our communities, we can see and feel and experience within just a few blocks of where we are standing. People who are struggling with the pandemic, people who are unemployed, essential workers who are out there protecting our lives and our safety. All of them rely on a reliable postal service to keep themselves and their families safe and sustained, and also their ability to choose their representatives. Fundamentally, that is what this is about. The president interfering with people's right to choose their representatives, from your little old council member and assembly member all the way up to President of the United States. I am very, very grateful to be joined by these three members of Congress, including a congressman from this neighborhood, Greg Meeks, in saying that it is unacceptable that there would be interference with our postal service and harm and damage to the lives of the ordinary people who live in this community, all for the sake of giving one man an unfair advantage in an election. Thank you.
Also joined by a strong advocate up in Albany, working for us in the State Assembly, the Honorable David Wepler.
David. Thank you, Congressman Meeks, for bringing us together. You know, as was pointed out, this goes beyond the current election. You know, we just had a Democratic primary a short period of time ago where over 60% of individuals voted by mail, and the mail was terrible. Can you imagine with these proposed cuts, with what's being proposed to reduce mail service? You know, we need more time, we need more money in the United States Postal Service. Now is not the time to slow it down or to do cuts, especially before a national election and a presidential election. So my colleagues here in Washington are fighting hard that this not happen. This is outrageous. It's not just about mail for voting, it's about emergency medicine and other things. This is crucial. The Postal Service should always be bipartisan, nonpartisan, and certainly now is not the time for shenanigans dealing with the Postal Service before the national election. Thank you, Congressman Meeks, for bringing us all together.
Questions? Yes.
David Bradley, how does this fit into a years-long erosion of the Postal Service? Is this an acceleration or is this just more of the same?
It seems as though it has been an acceleration because you continue to see, for example, we talked about mailbox removed. We talked about mailboxes being locked. We talk about postal distributors, machines being taken away. You talk about refusing to pay people who work in the post office overtime. That is a continuing acceleration of a deterioration of the postal services as we get closer to an election cycle.
Let me just add that I met yesterday with the mail handlers. I met yesterday with the mail handlers and with the letter carriers and with the APW, American Postal Workers Union. And they said that their overtime has been reduced over the past couple weeks. And these people will tell you the same thing. And the time that some people come into work every day, guy told me the other day he used to come in at 6:30 in the morning. They changed it. He now comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's told to only deal with first-class mail. He sorts the first-class mail. He goes out to deliver the first-class mail. He comes back because he wants to finish up his stuff. He says, no, you go home. So everything gets backed up. All the other mail gets backed up until days later. So there's a purpose. Now they're going to say, the president, the postmaster general, the administration is going to say, this is reform. This is not an efficient business. They're losing too much money. Every business in the United States of America lost money because of the coronavirus. The reason we have a bill in the United States Congress that we passed called the HEROES Act with $25 billion in it is to help the post office. This is not a money-making business. It's not supposed to be. It's the U.S. Postal Service. The military doesn't make money. Social Security Office doesn't make money. The purpose is not to make money. Think if you're in a community where you're in the middle of nowhere, out in the rural parts of the United States of America. Nobody's going to want to do a business. There's not enough volume there. But you have to have the Postal Service to keep the business up and running. So yes, it's an acceleration.
Any other questions?
Off topic?
Well, I guess
You guys are doing off topic? Off topic? Are you doing
off topic.
Off topic?
But
Congress lady? You want to talk about the dispute governor
I wanted to make sure that
yeah, we want to focus on this, and we want to focus. Let me just say one other thing that may be a little off topic, is the fact that what we need is also the Senate to get serious about negotiating the HEROES bill. We need to pass the HEROES bill. We need to take care of our citizens who are suffering as a result of the coronavirus. Many who have lost their jobs, many who don't have access to food, many who do not know how they're going to make it tomorrow. We passed over 3 months ago this bill, 3 months ago, and the Senate refused to negotiate anything at all. Now, as things are about to expire, because we all are afraid here that not only is this pandemic will also turn into a housing crisis, because if people are not able to get income, they can't pay their rent, and they can't pay their mortgages, and then they begin to be displaced because the furlough on rent payment is about to expire. And if we don't pass this, then individuals will be put in the street. So we have some serious business to take care of in Washington, D.C. And I will tell you that we are asking for the Republicans in the Senate. Notice McConnell was not even there to negotiate. To stand up. Because again, I will say, as they're learning now, and as we heard before, when this president, who seems to be the only one to do things that benefits himself financially, or trying himself to rig an election. We've seen him when he thought that the virus was only in blue states, do nothing. But as Governor Cuomo and others told him, it was in New York then, and it's everywhere now, whether it's a blue state or a red state or a purple state, because this coronavirus does not discriminate against anyone. So we would hope that they get to the negotiating table, and let's do something else on behalf of the American people. Thank you all.
I'm sorry, I apologize. There's one more thing. You know, Congressman Meeks talked about the HEROES Act, okay? It was passed 3 months ago. Why is it called the HEROES Act? Because we're looking out for the heroes, the people that went to work throughout the pandemic, that put their lives at risk to try and keep the American system, the American economy moving. You know who did that? The postal workers. Came to work every single day while we were all terrified. I don't know about you, but I was home in my house in March and April, and I was scared. We were worried about who was going to get sick, who was going to die. We lost my father-in-law. He was 93 years old. He died within 36 hours from the coronavirus. But you know who came to work every day? The heroes. The postal workers came every single day, and a lot of people got sick and some died. So we need to look out for our heroes. And part of the HEROES Act is to provide money to keep the U.S. Postal Services going. And we can't let that be sabotaged by people who want to try and impact this election by delaying the mails. One more question. Are you with the newspaper?
So,
I just want to let the newspaper guys go first.
yeah. Thank you. I think that's it. Oh no, go ahead.
similar to Queen County politics. The Postmaster General just said that he's going to suspend operational changes until after the elections. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
Well, there's still a lot of questions. Suspending now, does that mean he's going to put back those mailboxes? Does that mean he's going to make sure that he starts paying people overtime? Does that make sure he's going to take off the locks on the mailboxes that have locks? What does that mean? Because the damage has been substantially done. And so to say that you're going to suspend it now is not enough. I would suspect he's going to get some questions like that on Monday afternoon. We don't know what that means, and we know, the tricks, and at times, not at times, almost every day, the lies that come out of this administration.
The mail handlers said to me yesterday, they can say that they're going to stop removing machines, but they've already put police tape around a lot of machines in the mail processing centers. They're not going to put them back into service. They said they do this kind of thing all the time. They'll suspend the use of the machines. They'll put tape around, they'll dismantle them. They won't put them back into use. So that's why these hearings are so important.
Yes, and frankly, Postmaster DeJoy can say whatever he wants about what changes will or will not happen in the future. He has lost the trust of the American people. He has lost our trust to make sure that he will follow through. After they said that they would suspend taking mailboxes out, there were reports and there was confusion about whether that was continuing to happen or not. We need to get him under oath on a committee letting us know what is happening, and we have to undo the damage that he has already done. We're talking about almost 700 sorting machines that may have been removed or otherwise taken out of service. And those sorting machines go to hundreds and thousands of, thousands of postal services and postal offices across the country. We need to make sure that they are not just, that they don't just cease the removal of them, but that they put them back in working condition, and that we also now have to lean in on plans to make sure that we accelerate service to get us caught up and make sure that people are getting the overtime back that they deserve, to make sure that they get the work and labor protections that they deserve, and that we get caught up in our mail delays before the election.
And I close on this because this is important for people to remember. In some other states, they start putting out affidavits for these ballots, many August the 20th. So we're just talking about a couple of weeks from now. So that's why it is absolutely necessary and important for those sorting machines and for the people that are working in the post office to get their overtime pay if necessary, and to make sure that the sorters are functioning and the mailboxes are put back so that the people in the states particularly that are starting early make sure that their franchise is not disenfranchised. Thank you very much.
For each of the members of Congress, would you support changing the mandate that the United States Postal Service has to refund its pensions by decades, 75 years? Do you support changing that?
Yeah, I think we're probably all on that bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? If not, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Roy. You're a good man. David?
Thanks, guys.